It's finally that time of the year where I talk trash about all your favorite books and you resent me for it. Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about the worst books that I've read this year. If you're not subscribed, you need to, because I'm doing a whole end of the year series where I'm talking about the best, the worst, the most surprising, the most disappointing / overhyped books that I've read this year. And then there's a bunch of other book series starting for next year's reading challenges and the books I'm looking forward to. So definitely don't want to miss any of those. Today, like I mentioned, is going to be all about the worst books that I've read this year. I've read over 100 books this year, and these just didn't cut it for me. A lot of these are actually books that I either finished, like hate reading, or that I stopped reading. I DNF'd them because it was one of my resolutions this year to not force myself to finish books I hate. But I usually at least read 50%, and I still had a lot of strong opinions about these ones. So let's go through them. Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. I will link down below. I did a full reading vlog on it, so there's a bunch of quotes and exact details of what was bothering me in this book, so I'm not going to repeat the same things, but I still had more things to say. I feel like this is a book that brings out a lot of emotion, especially on booktube. A lot of people love YA fantasy books, and this one is one of the like cult overhyped ones that everyone has read or wants to read or love or everything. I understand being attached to characters or a story or even an author, a book being there basically when you need it the most, but I cringe a little bit when people say that Sarah J Maas or Cassandra Clare books are like art and, you know, the best thing ever. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, the writing is mediocre at best, and the plot in this one was very meh and the characters were super painful. This is literally the best example of a book telling instead of showing. In this story, you're following the main snowflake who is supposed to be the best assassin ever at the age of 16. She is sent at a mine basically to become a slave and die there. But the prince comes and get her to participate into a competition where she can become, if she wins, the champion of the king being the person that killed her parents. So I feel like the plot had potential, which is kind of why I ended up resenting the whole book the more I read from it. Because she could have taken this opportunity, being this badass assassin, to try and get her revenge against the king, or try to kill everyone else to try and win the competition. There was like so much that could have happened, yet she was literally the worst assassin ever. Like literally ever. So you're told that she's a badass, yet she spends all her free time reading books, playing piano, flirting with the prince, and there's a painful love triangle in there. Like, I knew that there was one, but I didn't realize who the third person was until like halfway point, because he told himself in his head that he was into her, and I was like, really? I did not see it coming. Like, they had zero chemistry. She never hears anyone coming into the room, which, I mean, badass assassin, right? The prince constantly surprises her that way, and one morning she wakes up and there's literally a bag of candy next to her with no name on it, and people have been like murdered, like the other people that are participating into this competition, and Dum Dum just decides to start eating all the candies. At that point I was done with her, like really hoping that she was going to be poisoned and die. I also really hated how there was all the classic tropes of like the special snowflake who, sure, she went to, you know, the mines for a year, so she was skinny as hell when it happened. That made sense, but like even after weeks of her training and everything, like yes, they're saying her boobs are getting bigger, which good for you, girl, but at the same time, like that's literally how they were saying that she was gaining weight again, because she did not gain 1 ounce of muscle, because God forbid women have muscles. I hated how the whole story was way more focused on her being very, very attractive. Like the first 2 chapters were so painful. If you want quotes, definitely watch that reading vlog, because it was bad. I also really didn't like her as a person to begin with, but I didn't like how she had no issue with men, although she seemed to, like she had been recruited as a kid, it's vaguely explained, I'm assuming it's explained more in other books, to become an assassin by a man, and I'm assuming spending a lot of time with these type of men can have been a good experience as a child, especially since she's so attractive. In the mines, there's apparently a point where she's almost raped, so she can't really like guys. I feel like she would have been traumatized by the whole thing, yet she's always smiling and flirting with the guards and everything, and she's always smirking at all the other women just because they're wondering who the hell she is talking to the prince in her pretty dress, because you're told so many times she's so spectacular in that dress, which, again, there's always someone calling me out like, oh, what do you have against pretty girls? Absolutely nothing. I am just so sick and tired of the main female character, especially in YA books, having to be incredibly attractive or like incredibly bland, yet everyone wants her. And I hate how it's like, oh, but I feel like it's just to prove how female characters can be badass and like masculine things, yet still like feminine stuff and be pretty. Dude, this is literally not the exception. It's the rule. It has to be like that in those books. It never happens that it's not like that. So blah, blah, blah. Can't even speak anymore. So yeah, I had a lot of issues with this book, and I do feel like it might get better. I had a lot of issues also with A Court of Thorns and Roses by the same author, yet I enjoyed book 2 a lot more. It was still kind of convenient towards the ending and everything, the cringiness of the sex scenes, but it improved so much that that's kind of why I expected to not love this one after reading the first chapter, yet I continued, and I'm hoping maybe it will get better. I might continue the series, but I had a lot of issues with this, and it's definitely one of the worst books, especially character-wise, that I've read this year, so it needed to be mentioned here. And again, there's so much more, but I'll end here. Another book that got me a lot of hate on Goodreads, Altered Carbon by Richard Morgan. Oh my, did I have issues with this book. I actually did not finish this book. Actually, I mentioned I usually read 50% of a book before deciding, and I could not do this with this one. I DNF'd it at 120. This is an adult sci-fi book, or so we're told. And it's a futuristic world where you follow a main character who's supposed to be this badass kind of soldier who is sent to try and solve a murder mystery. Basically, rich people in that world can kind of switch body into clones, so they don't really die, but at the same time, he goes to investigate this death of the character, and he's questioning the wife of the man, and he's literally talking about her boobs and his dick getting hard, like twice each in like 3 pages, and I was like, what the hell am I reading? It continues that way too, because later on you're told, actually there's a bunch of mention of boobs, like every single female characters you meet, you gotta know about her boobs because it's necessary. And at one point I think it's described as elusive globes, which, that writing. And later on he goes back to his hotel room and he's like half-ass masturbating because he's not really into it, but again, it brings so much to the story. I'm so glad I was there. And later on when I DNF'd the book, it was just the beginning of a sex scene, which was just so freaking cringy. And my issue is that I'm not someone that likes to read about romance in general, and sex scenes kind of give me secondhand embarrassment. I have no issue with them like in movies, but for some reason, when I'm reading a book, I'm like, someone had to think these things and write it down, and it's just making me very embarrassed for them. And it was so badly written that it didn't help. I think my issue is the fact that this was sold to me as a sci-fi with clones, and I was like, hell's yeah, I want to read that. Actually, if you want a recommendation for that. This was actually a pretty solid book. This is 6 weeks, and this is a kind of murder mystery where everyone wakes up in their new clones and they can't figure out who killed everyone in a spaceship. It was pretty solid, but this was not. And opening it up and realizing that this is just like bad porn, like it wasn't even good porn, you know what I mean? Like, if I were to read a book with sex in it, I want it to be good. This wasn't it. It was just pretending to be a sci-fi, and I hated the comment section in every video or like reviews I would leave because it just proved my point that I won't go too far in it, but the amount of times I was told that it was because of my tiny female brains that prevented me with my prudish sensitivities to enjoy this masterpiece. You feel me? Yeah, it just proved my point that this was just not for me. I really did not like it. Yeah. Workrust by Mary Lou. I was kind of hesitating between The Cruel Prince and Workrust. I kind of like switched them. One isn't my most disappointing. This one isn't here. I couldn't finish it. I was sold this book by telling me it's a YA sci-fi. Kind of reminded me of Ready Player One. Not that I love that one, but you know, I like the idea of like, you know, a game, virtual universe, whatever. This had to be the most bland female character I've ever followed. You're told so many times how she has rainbow colored hair. It's literally the only thing about her that matters. I appreciated that the book was more diverse, but this is pretty much one of my pet peeves of like, that's the only good thing about the book, and that's why people rave about it. I mean, I'm assuming some people did genuinely enjoy this. I'm not saying that, but it just really annoyed me how you constantly were told rainbow hair, and how she basically overnight becomes such a good hacker. And I loved how it was explained to us that one day she just was looking at a screen, and like how she does her thing is like she unfocuses her eyes and things start popping. I don't know if I'm still bitter about the fact that as a kid I could not figure out how those stupid Garfield books were working. And maybe that's still why I'm angry about this, but like it made no sense. Like not at all. And I decided to DNF the book when the romance started because I could not deal with romance in here. The story was already kind of average, and I figured out before I put it down who was going to be the person that is kind of the twist. And like I went back to reading reviews and I was like, yep, knew it. And yeah, like I was saying, the romance, the main female character falls in love with the guy that created that game, Warcross. And it makes sense that she does, because obviously she's been looking up to him her whole life, but him falling for her, like really? Like why? Because of the rainbow hair. So yeah, it was just really bad. I don't get the hype at all, and definitely one of the worst books that I've read this year. Just could not deal. Let's keep going with the ones I didn't finish, because there's a few more. This one is All the Lies, All the Beautiful Lies, I believe by Peter Swanson. I really enjoyed his The Kind Worth Killing. If you're looking for a new thriller with a bunch of twists and messed up stuff, recommend that one. And I read his other book that came out, or Every Fear. It was okay, but not as good as the first one, and this one was like, so bad. DNF'd it at 60% or something, because one of my pet peeves in mystery, thriller, whatever you want to categorize this as, is whenever they put stuff just for the shock value to try and be different and shock you and kind of become known, I guess. And this was just not for me. Like apparently, from all the messed up stuff I read, this is where I draw the line. Relationship, sexual relationship between stepchildren and step-parents. There are two, I say, in this book. Like, why? That was so not necessary, and I could not care less about who did that, who did what, because at 60%, nothing had happened yet. And I was like, I am so done with this. I was listening to it as an audiobook too, so like, the cringy sex scenes between stepchildren and step-parents, I was like, I'm stuck listening to this. I cannot deal. So I couldn't like skip it. So, if you're into those relationships, this is the book for you. Seriously, I feel like a bunch of people were also disappointed with this book, so it's not just me, but yeah, I could not even finish it, so. One that I did finish, but hated, is Run by Blake Crouch, which is kind of ironic because I loved Dark Matter and Wayward Pine series by him. Both of them were in like past best of the year books that I've read. And I bought 3 more of his books, read 2, hated them, and the other one is like right next to me, but I think this is the worst one, so I wanted to talk about it. I'm kind of very, very bitter about this one actually, because I feel like the weaknesses of his newer work was so much more obvious in this one. I feel like very often his characters are not that great, and it tends to read more like a script for a movie than really a book, which can be okay because I feel like since they're all like thrillers, and especially like sci-fi thrillers, it keeps you on your toes and you want to finish the book and figure it out, and it's literally the only good thing about this book. In this book, you're following a family. Basically, there's a aurora borealis in the sky that appears, and everyone that saw it kind of go crazy and start killing everyone that didn't see it. So I was intrigued, and you're following a family trying to escape, kind of to go to Canada, since over there, I'm assuming, clouds, nobody saw it. The characters were bad, the dialogues were incredibly painful, and I discovered one of my new pet peeves. Children. I realized that children in stressful situation, post-apocalyptic, or I also read Jurassic Park, which was a great example of that too, they drive me absolutely cuckoo, and I want them to die painfully. I would not describe myself as a violent person, but this is my exception. I wanted to like throw that book, kill them, something. Like I just wanted something to happen because I couldn't deal, like if dinosaurs are after you and you just keep talking, I want you to die. I will leave you to die, and I will hope you die. And in this book, it was kind of similarly, like the kids kept doing stupid shit and complain, which again, I understand kids would probably, should be annoying and whine if there's like apocalypse happening, but at the same time reading about it was really annoying. And I will spoil the ending, so if you want to just know about it, keep watching. I wish I had known basically before reading it, so come back whenever the book is in the background. I'm done with it. Basically, I hate, and I mean hate, when a book is not explained. Like the ending that are open, 99% of the time they annoy me because it just feels like the author didn't know how to end the book. You know what I mean? And I feel like if it's aliens, tell me it's aliens. I will love the shit out of it. But tell me, in this one, it's not explained. A month later, everything stops and everything goes back to normal, and that's just how it is. Deal with it, people. I hated it. I hated it so much. Like, I finished a book. It's a short book. It's like less than 300 pages. And that was literally my only motivation, was to like learn what happened. And I didn't expect that it wasn't going to be explained. I was like, are you shitting me right now? Like, let me put it in the background. I resent that book so much, so much. Like, I will continue to read the new stuff by Blake Crouch, but I resent his old stuff so badly. Oh, and by the way, the other book that I didn't like by him was Bad Behavior, and it was just felt like a skeleton of a story. Like, there was like, I shouldn't have bought that book, you know what I mean? It was 3 little short story with nothing. My least favorite nonfiction of the year. I actually read quite a few nonfiction this year, and I went into this thinking it was about the 5th extinction, but like, I thought they would include a bit more information about the past ones. Not the case, which is fine. It's more of a biology type of nonfiction, not usually my genre. I tend to read either like more science related ones or memoir type of books. With that said, I wanted to read more about, you know, climate changes and everything. One of the things with these type of nonfictions that include a lot about the author, you kind of have to like the author. For me, for example, I love Jon Ronson. If you want to read his books, definitely actually listen to audiobooks, because I believe most of them, if not all of them, he's the one narrating them. And I find him so freaking funny. He's kind of awkward in a like super wholesome way, at least to me. And I recommend the one about psychopaths and the one about So You've Been Publicly Shamed. They're really good, and again, audiobooks are perfect for it. And I feel like I enjoyed them that much mostly because I like him. And in this book, I kind of realized slowly that I could not stand the author, which sounds kind of extreme, but hear me out. At one point, I wish I had put a post-it there. She went to a certain location to, basically, I should have mentioned it, but this book explores, like, she went to a few different places where we can see the effect of climate changes and basically a bunch of animals disappearing and being extinct. And in one of those locations, she visits the gift shop and asks the person working there to give her a tour. Okay, first off, not the job of the person, whatever, but the person just tells her they can't help her, they're busy. I thought, you know, that's fine, let's move on. No, 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 no. She has to be passive aggressive and not only think, but also write in the freaking book. As far as I could tell, we were the only ones there. Seriously, I don't like you. So, since I was already not a huge fan of the book, that kind of just did it for me. I was like, are you freaking serious right now? So if that doesn't bother you and you want to learn more than you can ever wish about rainforest frogs, maybe this will be for you. But yeah, it was very average, and then those little bits just made me like resent the author. I sound so bitter in those videos, but like, keep in mind this is me resenting so many books over a whole year, and it becomes almost a caricature and I'm like, I hate you more and more. So yeah. Oh, one of the weirdest book I've ever read, but not in a good way, was The Stars Are Legion. And I went into it knowing that it was the all-female cast sci-fi, hard sci-fi. And I had some pretty experience with some classic sci-fis that I've read this year, like The Forever War, which if you want to hear about it, it's in my most disappointing books of the year. So I was like, you know what? I want to read a book that won't be sexist. What? I made the mistake, maybe, of listening to it as an audiobook, and I put it down at 50% because I had still no freaking clue what the hell was going on. This was so freaking confusing. Let me, like, summarize what I know about the book. So, all-female cast, kind of like wars between different levels of people in the ship. Like, weird stuff happening. The ship recycling people. Yeah. People not being able to get pregnant anymore. Yeah. 200 pages, and that's all I know. I felt like at times it was kind of a bad version of the movie Snowstopper. Was it that movie? I need to double check, because that was a pretty interesting movie. And if you love that movie and you want more, maybe this would satisfy it. But again, so weird and not good. Snowpiercer. Close enough. So yeah, one of the weirdest books that I've read this year, definitely one of the worst books too, could not finish. And I feel like I never DNF books. Obviously it doesn't look like it in this video, but I tend to finish all of the books I start, but I could not do that to myself with this one. One that I hate finished, Aragorn. Look, I understand at this point, bashing this book is like kicking a dead puppy. That sounds really horrible. But like, that's kind of how it feels, right? Like, people have been like hating on it so much, and I agree that unless you're like 12 and it's like one of your first fantasy books that you've ever read, it won't be that great. Or unless you grew up reading it, basically, which I did not. I didn't watch the movie either, which apparently is horrendous. Don't know. But I went into it knowing that there was a dragon in it, and it was a YA fantasy. So I was like, hells yeah. It has literally all the tropes you can think of. All of them. And it could not be more similar to Lord of the Rings. Let's be real. So you're following a orphan character who finds a special dragon, and they become bonded. And he meets a old mysterious magician who teaches him everything overnight, and he becomes the most powerful person ever. Gotta summarize it a bit. I have to say, I also actually listened to it as an audiobook. It sounds like audiobooks are not for me, but I know it's because I get them from my library, and the waiting list is shorter for audiobooks than ebooks. So the ones I'm not sure, I tend to get them from my library, and then because it's faster, I get the audiobooks. It's not audiobooks. There's some fantastic ones out there. It's just these books that sucked. I believe that if I had the physical copy of the book, I could show you how Aragorn was literally mentioned 10 times in each pages. If I don't hear that name ever again, it will still be too soon. It was so painful. I was going nuts listening to it. I was like, I cannot deal anymore with that name. And the dialogues were so painful, which again, I understand he was young, blah, blah, blah. But damn it, someone published this. Someone read this and was like, yeah, good enough. No, it wasn't. Literally, I wish, again, I had the physical copy so I could have it posted and read you that section, but I swear, there's one point where the conversation between him and the magician that teaches him everything overnight, it's like, I think we should stop here for the night. Okay, let's stop here for the night. So I'm gonna start to, stop here for the night. Okay, we're stopping tonight here. Yeah, stop here, night. Painful. Straight up painful. Like, at the end, I didn't even care anymore. I was like, yeah, let's just like finish this in case when it gets better, then not. And in case, like, just to say I finished it, because I am not continuing this series. No matter how many people tell me it gets better, it can't. It just can't. Almost forgot one, Red Clocks. I read that one because everyone was going crazy over the Handmaid's Tale. And I wanted to read more dystopian books, and that one was compared to it, which I also DNF'd the book at 50%, and nothing had happened. Like, I swear, nothing had happened yet. I remember nothing, and I mean nothing about it, because it was pages and pages of nothingness. Don't recommend it. Definitely one of the worst books that I've read this year. That's literally all I can say. And I looked at the reviews, because at first when I read it, it was getting good reviews, and now it's like, ugh, so I'm not alone. Are those all? Are those all the books I hated? So I hope you enjoyed this very, very bitter and passive-aggressive video. I will link down below some more passive-aggressive ones, but also some very positive ones, me raving about the books that I loved this year. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and support. Don't forget again to subscribe, because there's so many more fun videos coming up. I will be putting some on the screen, including the ones I've mentioned, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!